What's up, y'all? We are live. I was gonna say this is episode 12, but it's not really. It's just a live stream. Welcome to Feel the Heat live stream edition. We were supposed to do this a long time ago, but playoffs got in the way. Life happened. But we're here now. How are you doing, Mr. Michael?
I still don't know how I feel about Mr. Michael. I also feel so jazzed after that very mellow intro. Like, you seem very excited to be here. Like,
I am
good
excited
things have been
to be
happening in your
here.
life, and that was the best you could do.
Listen, I am a monotone type of girl. Do I have to bring up the Kourtney Kardashian reference again?
No
Are you ever
one knows
gonna?
who that is.
You don't know who Kourtney Kardashian is. You know who that is.
Oh, I know who that is, but I don't actually know anything about her other than her last name.
Okay, well, we're not going to do this again. I'm monotone, but I'm excited to be here. We're going to start things off by talking about the playoffs. I think the Nets and Bucks are playing as we speak. I don't know what the score is. I actually don't even know if they've tipped off yet. But I'm going to start out by just briefly touching upon the disaster that was the Philadelphia 76ers yesterday. How did you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I feel like we have to call out Jorge Sedano, right? I feel like that's a thing.
Are we calling him out? Because I kind of respect it.
Oh, you agree with him? I
don't agree with him, but I like that he does not care and he's doing what he wants.
Back, Ricky. So you're agreeing with Jorge Sedano's take?
Nope, I'm not agreeing with his take. I like the fact that he had a take and wasn't afraid to say it. He's also doubling back on all of his takes, and he even said he's not scared of no one. I liked that tweet on purpose today.
My thing is, I do understand kind of the, why are you happy with another team's demise when you're not even there? But also, it's the Sixers.
That's where I took issue with it. I understand his point, and I mean, I've been critical of Heat Twitter for that reason. I don't think that we have much leg to stand on, but at the same time, it's the Sixers. And it's not like we're saying anything that didn't happen. They collapsed on their own. We're just happening to bask in it.
My thing with the Sixers is they went about things such a weird way, right? With their whole tanking and trust the process. And they had all these lofty expectations. You'd hope that those years of absolute garbage would be backed up by something. And the best they did, was Eastern Conference Finals with Jimmy?
Yeah.
Or was that second round?
No, I think they made the second round.
Yeah. So, it's just one of those things that it just feels like, hey, you get what you deserve. You tanked for years. And admittedly, I will tell you, Ben Simmons, I don't like Ben Simmons. I think he's an incredibly overrated player.
See, my problem isn't even with the whole trust the process rebuild. It's just they get so cocky and they can't back it up. I mean, honestly, you could see it in their faces last night, even their attitudes, their body language. They thought, it was a game. First of all, Embiid played well, although I can't stand him and I just don't like seeing him play. But short of that, I don't think anyone had any right to be as cocky as they did. And I mean, I think the Hawks took full advantage of that.
Okay. I will combat this. I don't think Miami ever really purposefully tanked.
I agree with that. That's not on brand.
I don't think that they do that. Also, there's a difference. Even if you did, there's a difference between one season where things go poorly and you're just like, okay, let's just ride out what we currently have, and years in a row making very obvious moves that are you saying we don't want to win. We want the first overall pick. I don't think the Heat have ever really done that. Even when the Heat were in a position to get the number one overall pick, they didn't. It ended up going to the Bulls. And they got there.
No, Riley, I don't think Riley would stand behind that. Again, I think that at this point, I don't know if we should be necessarily holding the whole trust the processing against them. There's just something so irksome about this team that I just want them to lose. Obviously, I will stand by this. I just want a Hawks-Suns final, so got to get rid of the Sixers to get there.
I think it's a bunch of things too, though, right? Because it's one of Dwayne Wade's, I think one of his last times in the playoffs. I think with the Heat, his last time in the playoffs with the Heat, he was bounced by the Sixers. And I remember that series. Listen, I fell in love with Justin Winslow that series. When he stepped on Joel Embiid's mask.
Yeah.
That was the best. All right. You've got that moment. And then you have when Jimmy comes down, the Sixers and Sixers Twitter and Sixers fans were all the ones that were really hard coming after the Heat, saying, oh, the Heat are never going to win. So that's one where it's just like, okay, what the heck is going on here. So
I do need to call you out for something, though. Would you still take Embiid on the Heat? I honestly, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you saying that. Like, it really bothered me to the core.
Because you have it. Okay, you have it there in our rundown. You say, should Heat fans ever root for Embiid?
And by Heat fans, I meant you, honestly. Like, if that should have said, should Michael take back his comment?
If Embiid is on the Miami Heat, I will root for him. If Embiid is on another team, I will never root for him. Here's the thing I will say. Him and Jimmy have a connection. We can't argue that. Right?
Okay.
They have a connection. They seem to be close. If Embiid said, I want to be down in Miami, there's not other options out there for the Heat. I don't see how they can turn their noses up at that.
His attitude alone, just his attitude alone is trash.
But you think that his attitude wouldn't be better with Jimmy?
I think that's how he
fall in line.
No,
I think he could make it work. I'm not saying that the Heat should go make a move for Embiid. I really don't even think it's possible. But if Embiid wanted to be in Miami, I'd be fine with them doing that. I'd be totally fine with them doing that. But look,
you would have just taken back your comment. That's why I put it in the rundown. I gave you a chance to backtrack. I gave you an out.
Okay, you want to talk about a chance to backtrack, right? Somebody on this pod said that the Bucks are going to win the series
in 7. I stick by it.
Games.
I don't know what's happening tonight.
But it doesn't look like that's really going to happen.
I think it could still.
I'm not saying it can't, but I'm saying it's not looking very likely. Okay, but let's talk about this. I did want to talk about this one. KD played great. We'll get to KD in a second. James Harden came back. James Harden had a bad game. Everybody gave him crap and said, oh, he shouldn't have come back. But I will argue this. I don't think the Nets win that game without James Harden. I'm not saying that James Harden was his pivotal piece. Obviously, Kevin Durant was a huge factor. Jeff Green making threes like that, huge factor. But I think Harden being on the floor opened it up for a lot of other people. And I will say, if James Harden is not there, I don't think they win that game.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think he rushed his comeback.
I will never root for him unless he's in a Heat jersey. But if he wanted to wear a Heat jersey, I'd let him. That was my point.
I didn't want him to rush his comeback. I think that his long-term health is more important than one game. Obviously, I'm glad that it didn't seem to, stand in the ways of his recovery. Injury-wise, he looked fine and he was moving fine. He didn't have a great game, but I don't think that was the problem. I think to your point, he is needed out there regardless if he is putting up, volume shooting, or if he's necessarily like sticking out on the box score. I think he adds value. Do I still think the Bucks could potentially do it though? Yeah, I don't think it's sustainable necessarily from KD unless someone else steps up. That is no shade to KD because that was a crazy good performance. I just don't know if he can keep doing that.
Sure, but all it takes is a few points from Harden. Right, because Harden, how many did he have that game? I'm looking it up right now. Harden had a grand total of 5 points. He was 0 for 8 on 3-pointers, 1 for 10 from the floor.
I could have had a better stat line than Harden did.
I mean,
I'm wet from 3.
I don't think any of us would ever make a 3-point shot in an NBA game, unless we took literally like 30 of them. You really think you make a 3-point shot in an NBA game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well. Look, he scored 5 points short. I don't think Kevin Durant is going to come out again and score 50 points again, although he missed 50 points by 1, and it was infuriating from like an OCD standpoint. Like I wanted that 1 free throw.
No, all of Twitter was calling for that. I'm like, who cares?
Oh, I care. It's a nice 50. Plus, you know how many records would have looked nice if it's like the only.
Yeah, but see, I don't mess with the Nets, so.
That's right. You're not rooting for them. One thing we do that is interesting from this series, though, Budenholzer. One of the worst coaches in the NBA, honestly, in my opinion. Do you think he's going to have a job next season?
No, I think
or at all.
No, I think regardless of what happens, and I've said this before, he looks lost. Like it doesn't even take someone who knows much about the game. His body language alone, when things don't work or when things are starting to slip, he doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing. I don't know if he's panicking. I don't know if it's just he had a game plan going into the game and it's not working and he doesn't auto adjust. Something is going on. I don't think he's going to be around. And especially with all the coaches that are now available, I don't see him being in Milwaukee next season.
And this is, I mean, as UD fans, we should all understand that impact isn't always statistical. Harden's impact was felt out there by him just playing, defending Giannis, helped a great deal. For example, it worked for him. And that's what I'm saying. Because a lot of people were giving Harden a hard time. Look at that. I'm like, yeah, sure. He didn't have a good game. He's hurt for sure. But him being on the floor was so crucial for that team. And I'll tell you, currently, Brooklyn is losing 6-2. I mean, it's 4 minutes into the game.
Early,
but that's just where it's at. So I will stick with my prediction. Well, I can't anymore. I think I said Nets in 5. Did I say Nets in 5 or 6?
You did.
I said 5?
I think you did.
Okay, well, I'm off on my prediction, but I honestly think you are too. So I'll take both of us losing.
Time will tell, Michael. Time will tell.
Time will not tell. But we do have to talk about one other league-wide issue, and then we'll get more into specific Miami Heat talk. LeBron James had another very interesting statement. He complained about the injury situation. He was talking about, we all talked about coming back later, but the league said, no, we got to bring it back. We mentioned quality of play, yada, yada. He's basically blaming the shortened offseason for all of the injuries that we're seeing happening in the NBA. Do you agree or disagree with what LeBron James said?
Honestly, I don't see how anyone can disagree. I think that I understand why people maybe don't love that he spoke out in the way he did. That is debatable, but I just don't see the other side of that. It's obvious why this is happening. There was a shortened offseason. Travel, impacts that. In terms of their schedule, they had to get up early to get tested. Like, things changed. Yep. I 100% think that that's the case. Do I also think that if the teams and the players didn't necessarily want that, they could have pushed back harder? Maybe. LeBron tends to insert himself where no one really asked. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think he's sticking up for, guys across the league. And I think that if he feels comfortable enough doing it, great. He has to know he's going to get some backlash. I don't think he cares anymore at this point. But I had no problem with him speaking out, but at least I can understand why people found that a little bit irritating.
I think the LeBron thing is very interesting because I personally, I would think that half of the league disagrees with him. At least half of the league disagrees with him because you have a lot of teams.
The league or the players?
Well, half of the players.
Really?
Right? Like half of because a lot of teams didn't even make the bubble. And even the teams that did make the bubble were out by late August?
Yeah, but even you don't think that
August?
Those players can see what's happening to the teams that did make the bubble and agree with that? Like, even if it doesn't,
nobody ever wants injuries, but to them, they're just like, okay, now we just got to wait even longer. Like, let's just get going. Let's just get the season going. So I would feel like there's a lot of players that were just like, yeah, let's just go for it.
Season though. And I'm not saying that maybe at the time they didn't say go for it. I think that, to your point, I think they wanted to get back out there, but I think looking back, it would be, in my opinion, like, it would be hard for me to think of a player who could say, I don't think that's why injuries are happening. And
I will agree with Ricky here. LeBron has been consistent about this. To another point, though, he wasn't complaining too much about injuries when it was, Bam and Goran going down in the finals. So,
I think that's why some people got annoyed because, timing of that is a little bit sus on his end. But
it's very like you're complaining about it when it affects you. For example, the play-in. None of us really cared about the play-in.
I cared.
Okay, fine. The majority of people didn't care about the play-in until it affected their team. Once it affected their team, then they decided, okay, I don't like the play-in because I don't want to have to play a couple extra games. LeBron also didn't say anything about the play-in until he was going to be in it, and then he said this is a horrible idea.
Yeah.
It just looks silly if that's the point you decide to complain about.
No, something. And I agree. I think the points that he was making were super valid. If it was coming from either him at a different time or another player, I think they would have been more well received. And
the different time thing too, right? Like wait till after the finals, wait till the season is done, and then you could say something like this past season felt weird and unfair, and like the timing caused a lot of the injuries that happened. Don't dance the moment somebody gets hurt and be like, you see, They just got hurt. I was right again.
While we're on
strange.
this topic, though, I do want to say something. I have noticed a lot of people on Heat Twitter suddenly agreeing that this was an asterisk season. Almost like, I don't know, your girl had been saying that for months on months on months, and now all of a sudden everyone agrees. I don't know. I just needed to take a moment because the plethora of tweets I've been seeing agreeing with me all of a sudden, a little bit
Well, a lot of people had been talking about the asterisk for a while. I know you've been very loud about it from the beginning. My thing about being on the other side was never a matter of, I don't think that this season merits anything. I think the season was totally fair. I'm not saying that. What I was saying at the time, especially for the Heat, is that is not what I want this team to be about. That is not what I'm focusing on. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, well, the Heat got eliminated at that point because the season was weird, because it was an asterisk season. No. They didn't play well. They needed to do better. And that's all I wanted to focus on. I didn't want to lean on, we had injuries and COVID. No, it was bad. Fix it.
Fact.
No, I understand it's fact, but that's not what I want to focus on.
No,
my thing.
That's fine. But I think, there have been some inconsistencies across the board. And I think people who before, were saying, this isn't an asterisk season, we can compete as hard, all of a sudden we're not in it. And I'm not even talking about Heat fans. I'm talking about fans from different teams across the board. All of a sudden now, the season doesn't count for anything. I'm just putting it out there. It seems like someone said that.
It's very easy to say, well, the season doesn't count for anything when your team's not still in it.
Mm-hmm.
If the Heat were still in the playoffs, nobody would be talking about this season.
Oh, I'd be saying the same thing. I was saying the same thing even when
I say nobody, I don't include you because you never follow the norm. Like whatever the norm says, you tend to want to say the other thing, no matter what it is. So like when I say everybody,
I don't do it on purpose though, despite what you might think.
Well, it sure as hell doesn't seem like it.
I just happen not to agree with most people.
What can we agree on? This season was topsy-turvy, right?
Absolutely.
It was disappointing. It was disappointing as a Heat fan.
Yes, but not embarrassing. Disappointing.
The team needs to improve and get better for next season.
I see what you're doing here. They sure do, Michael.
That's it. Nope, that's it. That's all I'm doing. They need to improve and get better next season.
Transition us in.
The way they're going to improve and get better next season is going to have to be with players outside of the team. Nobody wants to bring back the roster as currently constructed. And I want to say there's a lot of hot names out there. It seems like every day that a player says anything negative about their team,
at this point,
jersey swaps. Just jersey swaps. Let's go for it. I mean, Zion's name has been thrown out there recently in concerns with the Heat. Like I've seen a couple people.
I saw a jersey swap already.
Mike, first of all, look, it's not ever. Like, let's chill on that. But one name that people have been talking about a lot is a 36-year-old point guard from Tampa. I'm going to call it Tampa now because they weren't even able to play in their actual home. Kyle Lowry. Do you want Kyle Lowry on this team? And do you think Kyle Lowry actually puts this team in a position to compete for championships?
Do I want Kyle Lowry? Sure. I would have no problem taking him on. I think that he would add value. I definitely think that alongside Jimmy and Bam, he would make them better. However, we need to keep in mind, like you said, he's 36. It also depends on how much we're paying him. And to your second point, I absolutely don't think that he's going to move the needle. If that's the only thing we do, then there's still going to be major voids that we have to fill. I'm not against him by any means. I guess I don't really understand why people are as excited as they are about him, not necessarily even knowing how much he would be asking for.
Yeah, I think Kyle Lowry absolutely makes this team better. I don't think either of us don't think that. I think Kyle Lowry on this team would have absolutely gotten us more than 4 games out of the first round if he was on the team when we played the Bucks. My thing with him is I don't know if it puts us over the current teams in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if it puts us over the Nets or the Bucks in a series.
Not acquiring him alone by any means.
And that's what I'm saying. So if it comes with Lowry and other things, sure. But if you can use that money to get a little bit more or to get something different, that's the one place I would hold out. And we don't have it there on the agenda, but they talked about it on 5 on the Floor. Obviously, if you guys haven't checked out the 5 on the Floor podcast, go check that out. They have a lot of good information on there. But you do have to kind of bring it up. It's if Kyle Lowry is there in the offseason and he says, I want to sign with you guys, I don't know how much the dollar amount is. I want $28 million a year, whatever it is for that contract. But you know that if you sign him, that loses the chance of trading for a guy like Damian Lillard or a guy like Luka. Again, I think it's very unlikely for those to happen, but you lose that chance completely. Are you signing Kyle Lowry in that moment, or are you waiting to see what else you can get later on?
To be honest, I think because he has been very vocal about wanting to come here, I think you have an open conversation with him and you tell him, listen, we want to see what else we can do to help you out. You know, we want you here. It's just about figuring out the dollar amount and figuring out who else fits. You know, again, if it was a player who's a little bit hesitant or a player who feels like he has no choice, or, you know, someone up and coming who maybe doesn't understand the business as well, that could be tricky. But for someone like him, who apparently is quite close to Jimmy at this point, I think you're just open and honest. And I think you have a conversation and figure that out, because you know, at the end of the day, he does want to win. And I don't think he'd have any problem with that.
It'll be really interesting to see. So we have a question from Anthony. Would you guys trade for Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson from New Orleans? I would trade for Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. I would be hesitant to include Bam and Jimmy. I see Bam as nearly untouchable outside of a player that I know nearly untouchable. I'm saying nearly untouchable. I don't agree with
that.
And I was even in a Damian Lillard situation, I'd be a bit hesitant because I think Damian Lillard does help. Absolutely. But then the size that the Heat are lacking just got worse. And he's the only one you can count on this team.
I will say I am not a Zion fan. I have been saying this since I gave him a chance like his first year, or at least halfway through his first year. I don't think he's as good as people expected he'd be. Now, do I maybe think that, and like I always say, in a different system, he might thrive? Maybe, but right now I'm just not as hot on him as other people. He looks not in great shape and not conditioned properly, and I think that he would struggle.
Are you body shaming him?
Listen, I am not. But he would struggle. He would struggle in the Miami Heat system in terms of kind of workouts, body fat percentage. Like that would not be an easy feat for him.
And a little part of me worries about how much of the dominance he might lose out on if he is in a different body, right? If he is playing at a different weight, he's playing at a different just muscle, like all that kind of stuff. It's going to change up your play style.
It is, but that's kind of my point is I feel like he could be better if he got a little bit more fit. And, you know, I can't remember when on in terms of the season this was. There was that viral picture that went around and Zion was like crazy in shape and he was working on building muscle and losing fat and whatever else. What happened to that? Was it just COVID? I'm really not trying to throw shade, but I think everyone was really excited to see him take the next step. You know, he's young. It's not that hard for someone his age to kind of figure that out. And then it just kind of disappeared. I'm not as hot on him. And I think he would really struggle kind of with the conditioning.
And again, if it's possible for the Heat to trade for him, I think the Heat have to listen to whatever is out there. They're not in a position where they can say like, oh, you know what, we're not even going to bother talking about it other than certain like maybe a Porzingis. I'm not going to pick up the phone on a Porzingis thing unless you could acquire a Porzingis for like dirt cheap. If I'm basically giving up nothing at all. This is the
difference. You just want everyone who wants to come.
No, that's not what I'm saying either. It's like this. If you could trade for Porzingis and make a similar deal that the Heat made to acquire Victor Oladipo,
that worked out really well.
I mean, I'm wearing the jersey and
that's what worked out for you. At least you have American Express insurance where you can get rid of that. Right?
I'm not going to. I'm keeping it forever. And I'm going to wear this to games and people are going to stare at me weird and that's fine. And I'm going to wear it proud.
You don't get like popcorn thrown at you. That happened to me once.
You got popcorn thrown at you?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know whose jersey I had on though. People were not happy.
Were you wearing Dwayne Wade's jersey?
No, I had it was a Bulls Pistons game and I was in Chicago. And I was wearing a Bulls player who Chicago fans were not a fan of. I'll give you one hint. He has a teardrop tattoo on his face, if that rings any bells. He was also on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I should really know, but I don't.
Larry Hughes. I loved Larry.
Really?
Loved Larry, yeah.
Larry Hughes?
I loved him. This was, okay, honestly, this was like the Mo Harkless before Mo Harkless for me. I was such a big Larry Hughes fan, and a Bulls fan threw popcorn at me.
Well, you probably
got my wrath, though. Don't worry.
You probably deserved it. Sebastian got it. He guessed Larry Hughes. And they're on a delay, so I think he actually got it before you said it. I still don't have a problem with having traded for Victor Oladipo. Do you think it
I'm
was a
not
mistake?
saying no. I'm not saying that. I hate to say I told you so, but I kind of had a feeling this was going
Yeah,
to
but let's
happen.
not do that. Let's not do that about injuries. Yeah.
No, listen. I would never wish that upon anyone. I feel terrible for him. I also just think he's done in Miami. I don't see him having
I
a
would
future
take it back
here.
to that, but this is my thing. It's you need to listen to these offers. I'm not saying the Heat should make every
Yeah,
trade
no, I
possible,
agree with that.
but if you can get Porzingis for a price tag similar to what they
See,
traded for
but that
Victor Oladipo,
there's a difference between listening and actually taking on someone like
if it's
Porzingis.
super cheap and it costs you
No,
basically nothing and you
no,
still have the option to make other moves, I don't see why not try it.
because at the end of the day, I feel like who you bring in changes the dynamic of a team. And he just doesn't seem like a team player. I mean, all those reports
He
were
is near
coming
the
out.
yeah, he is near the bottom of my list, but if everything
No, I
else
know. I'm
doesn't
just
pan
saying,
out,
as an example, it's not necessarily even so much as like, oh, we'll give him a try. And if he doesn't work out in terms of, X's and O's and on court. But I think bringing someone in who has a trash attitude already or who expects more than they deserve, I think that's cancerous and I don't want it.
I mean, and if we talk about players that would get people riled up and unhappy, this is a very easy segue and transition to the next guy, Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond keeps coming up when it comes to the Heat. And I want to know what you think about Andre Drummond, and then I'm going to make my point that I think a lot of people aren't seeing or thinking about.
Oh, God, I already hate
Go
this.
ahead.
Also, wait, can I address someone's comment? Anthony
Do it.
asked, Alana, I understand that we have no chance of getting Luka, but do you think it would benefit him specifically to come to Miami because it seems like Dallas is not really looking good? That's hard. I mean, listen, everyone knows that Luka and Goran are very close, and I think that mentorship will work well. I also actually think Luka would fit culturally pretty well. I think that he is kind of the grinded out type of player, and I think that he really does put winning above everything. On court, little bit maybe of a ball hog, but it depends who else is on the team. I don't think that it's going to happen. I think that especially with all the changes happening, in Dallas, he's likely to stay if I, had to take a guess. But culturally, I think he'd be a good fit.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Lakers AD, and then we can get, because Anthony just had another question, but we can get to that one later. But let's talk about AD from the Lakers.
I don't understand why we're even interested. I don't get it.
So you agree Andre Drummond is the Lakers AD?
Well, I mean, I know who you're talking about. I didn't think you were talking about Anthony Davis. I don't, maybe I'm missing something. I don't get it.
Here's my only thing with Andre Drummond. I don't necessarily want him on the Heat. There's other people I would take before him. I don't think he fits very well. I don't think he's a great basketball player.
How old is he?
I don't think he's very old. I feel like
he's
neither.
Like 28. And that's
something.
The problem. I think that if he plays older and he looks older, which kind of worries me.
He's super slow. Mm-hmm. He misses all the shots inside. He's problematic. He wants a lot of playing time.
But you still don't hate the idea.
Here's my only thing with Andre Drummond. It's not a matter of hating the idea or not. Andre Drummond is 29. Here's what I'll say. If the Miami Heat organization keeps circling back to Andre Drummond, they're seeing something. They're thinking something. And if I am sitting here, this staunch believer in culture and what Pat Riley can do and what Eric Spoelstra can do, and they're saying this is the guy we want, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'm not going to sit here and tell them it's for sure not going to work out because they're seeing something. You're telling me that all of these people see that Drummond isn't good or that he can't play inside, but the Heat keep wanting him over and over and over again?
We don't know what all these people mean, right? And I think, I'm not by any means trying to say that there's any rift happening between Riley and Spo by no means. However, Riley comes from an older generation. He comes from a different era of basketball. I think that it's not really any surprise or secret that they've disagreed on a few people recently in terms of personality, in terms of play style. There are Spo's guys and there are Riley's guys. I don't know which it is. If I had to take a guess, it seems like, one of Riley's picks. And if that's the case, and listen, I'm saying this, Pat Riley is literally my idol. Like, I saw him at the Bucks game and almost died of happiness. So this is not to go against him.
Yeah, you want to cheers a rosé with him while ignoring Embiid's calls.
We're going to. I'm manifesting it. But it's nothing against him. I just think that when he looks at players, he sometimes looks at an older style of play. And I just don't see it happening. How is that going to work with Bam?
No, listen, I see all of those points. I literally see all of them. The spacing with him, Bam, and Jimmy is almost non-existent. Him and Bam alone playing next to each other, very hard to make sense unless Bam starts playing from outside more. Offensively, he's a bit of a train wreck with his own shot. But why do they keep going back to it? They keep doing it, right? Like it's not like they tried once and it didn't work. They tried once, it didn't work. They tried a second time, it didn't work.
I don't know if it's one of
idea.
those things that, they look at him as a Dedmon replacement. But if you ask me, I would much rather take Dwayne Dedmon any day of the week.
I would rather take Dwayne Dedmon too, because I've seen Dwayne Dedmon play in the system and I've seen it work. I just that's the only thing that's keeping me with this Andre Drummond idea. It's why do they keep going back to it? Because at the end of the day, my honest belief is they know more about basketball than I do. I know for a fact I don't know better than them. So I'm not going to sit here and say when it doesn't work out, oh, I knew 100% it wasn't going to work out. They're seeing something. And I'm just confused as to why they keep going back if everyone is saying why it doesn't make sense. So
that's a good point. I am also wondering, if I was a free agent, I guess even someone seeking a trade later on, I don't know if okay, the Heat signed Andre Drummond, would you be enticed to go there? And I know we've discussed this, but I don't think Miami's as big a free agent destination as people think. So we bring on Drummond. Yeah. Do you think other players are like, wow, they got Andre Drummond, I think I should join? The whole thing makes no sense to me.
If they're going after Drummond, there has to be some sort of plan. They're thinking of something, right? They're either thinking of pairing him with someone else. They have to have a plan. So I'm just really intrigued to see what that's all about. I hope they don't sign him. Honestly, I hope they don't. But if they do, I'm gonna root for Andre Drummond and I'm gonna hope the best. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, you see, he missed another layup. That's why I never wanted him. I was right. The organization was wrong. I'm just not going to be against the organization like that. I can call out mistakes that I think they made. But if that's what they want to do, it's their team. They're going to know how to build it better than I do. So the last player we want to talk about in terms of these offseason people is this kind of new idea that's been popping up lately.
Literally today, it blew up.
I think they mentioned it 2 on 5 on the floor, maybe earlier. And
I think it had kind of been circulating, but for whatever reason, I feel like Heat Twitter wakes up and has this meeting at some point, meeting of the minds.
There's some group chat you're not in.
This is what we're gonna obsess over today, even if it is coming out of nowhere. Let's all talk about this. Every day I wake up to a different, and sometimes midway through the day it changes. They're like, oh wait, actually different agenda. But we're going to stick with this for now.
It's all dependent on who complained about their team most recently. That's really what it comes down to, right? So did you say something negative against your team? You probably want to come down to Miami, don't you? Right? This player has done no such thing, but he's been brought up. Malcolm Brogdon. I think he's with Indiana right now.
He is.
So Malcolm Brogdon with this team, again, definitely helps. I think him, Brogdon, and Lowry, we can both say make the team better. Andre Drummond, we don't think makes the team better. But is Brogdon enough, and how much do you have to give up to get a Malcolm Brogdon?
So the trade, and I believe it was a Bleacher Report article, the trade, I believe, was Brogdon and TJ Warren for Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, and KZ Okpala.
Go ahead.
Listen, I do not want to get rid of Goran from a personal standpoint, so that hurts me deep inside. Do I understand why that trade is being proposed? Sure. However, in terms of Indiana's interest, let's not be coy. Tyler Hero did not have a good year. Now, he's really young, and it was an off year, and he was injured. So it's not one of those situations where it's guaranteed that he's not going to get better. I actually think that he's going to have a much better next year. But between that and Goran, who I think he's 36 as well. So I'm not really sure what the interest would be there. I think it really depends on if Indiana is trying to kind of slowly start gutting out and kind of building back up, or if they're going straight for contention again. But that was, I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it, but that trade to me seemed a little bit skewed on their end of what the interest level would be.
My thing with Brogdon, first of all, Warren, I don't think I could ever see Warren and Jimmy playing together after what went down.
That's true too.
No shot. I wouldn't want to play with the guy after what I said. And I wouldn't want to play with the guy that said whatever Warren said to Jimmy, and I also wouldn't want to play with Jimmy if I was Warren, right? Because he called me out like that. I'm just not with it. I don't think that part of it makes any sense. I think Malcolm Brogdon is a good player. I think he would work with this team. It's just, what are you trying to put the assets to, right? And I will agree with Ethan on this. Ethan says it all the time on the pod. I agree with him. I don't like calling players assets, but what are you going to do with the limited players that you do have that are tradable? With the things that you could currently give up to try to get better, is this really what you think the best move is, or is this just the best of what's available?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it comes down to, I'd rather just wait and see if it'll kind of come back to where it's a higher value and maybe I could get something else out of it, or the player themselves are worth keeping. Personally, I don't think trading for Malcolm Brogdon is really going to be that move that puts us over the top.
No, I agree. And I think, aside from the fact that I, again, do not, for some reason, think that Miami is as kind of valued a place as people think, I've always felt, and this was not necessarily only recently, we have this weird thing we do where we either pull the trigger too soon or we wait so long that we're left with kind of just a Hail Mary. And I think that I don't want to be the situation again where, they feel rushed to just kind of get rid of people or to just revamp this team and go after whoever surface level might make sense or might be available or might be someone who not everyone is going after. Like, I really hope that we take our time and sit down and have conversations with players and really think it through. Because, it's a game you have to play. It's not just kind of quick trigger. This is what we think. And I think if we're going to be on Jimmy's timeline, we need to start being a little bit more intentional in our off seasons.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see how that goes. Another name that came up here, and this one has been brought up multiple times before with the Heat, Miles Turner. I mean,
well, they have beef, right?
There's more beef there as far as I know. I think Miles Turner could help. I think he kind of makes sense, right? Because he can stretch the floor, rebounds well. He blocks a hell of a lot of shots. Again, it's just one of those things of what do you want to do with what you currently have that's tradable, and what are you going to do with it? And I'd rather hold to see what else we can do. This isn't really what I'm dying to do. These aren't the moves I'm dying to make.
And honestly, I would love to see them just get back to their Miami Heat identity. I know it's kind of become like a cliche thing, but when they're successful, it's because they're playing Miami Heat basketball. And I think you need to keep in mind who's going to get you there and not just, again, kind of take players that on paper look good or maybe, fit the system, but not necessarily with their teammates. And I think we have to get back to defensively. We were okay. Oh God. But 3-point shooting is a problem. And I think we need to address it.
I'm just going to keep nodding my head at this. This is
the
agenda.
I'm not against Kawhi. I just want to make this clear. There is no shot of him coming. Like I give it maybe a 3 to 5% chance. And that's on a good day.
Yeah. I really don't think it's going to happen either. I don't even think Sup thinks it's going to happen, but if there's a chance, I'd like to.
I'm not saying no.
I'd like to be there for it.
I would rather talk realistic conversation.
And Zip makes a really good point. All the coaching changes going on. Some players might get mad about who gets hired and ask out. That's where Pat comes in. This offseason is going nuts already.
Yeah.
We're not even in the offseason technically. The Heat are, unfortunately, but the NBA isn't. The games are still going on. There's a lot of contenders still in play, but there's already a ton of movement. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all shakes out. And all it takes is one major move for everyone else to start having a trickle effect. Right? All it takes is that one super team coming in, then everybody else is going to respond accordingly.
And, I don't necessarily think that we need to. Riley loves his whales, and we need help. I'm not saying that we don't. But I think that the other thing that we, fans need to consider, the Heat are really good at finding kind of diamonds in the rough. And what is? Sorry,
RJ's comments. I don't even get it. But I love it.
People clowned KO, but at the end of the day, I thought that was a pretty good find. I think he helped in the system that we were in at that time when we signed him. So I think people need to, obviously big names are going to excite people. Kawhi is going to excite people. Dame, even Lowry. But I think that what I'm mostly looking forward to is seeing kind of the diamonds in the rough that the Heat come up with.
And I think what's going to be interesting about this offseason too is So you have kind of these super teams that have formed, and honestly, they're not really super teams because I think every team is vulnerable. I don't care how many stars you have on there. They are vulnerable.
I would call the Nets at this point. That's the only one that I would.
With the amount of injuries, though?
On.
Like with the amount of injuries that they've been sustaining so far?
Yeah, because I think that, again, this year is weird, and I don't necessarily think that that would be the case in a normal season or every year.
But what I mean is you've got like sellers and buyers, essentially. And when teams think that they don't have a chance and they might have one really good player and they know they can't form it around that player, they'll sell that player to someone else or they'll give them up for someone else. I'm not sure how many teams think that they should be buying instead of selling. And that's what this offseason is really going to tell about a lot of these franchises, is how much they want to sit there and be like, okay, I want to acquire that other star because I think this is going to put us over the top. One such team, the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks are now sitting pretty at a 3-2 lead against the Sixers. They may think if we get that one more piece to go along with Trey, maybe that puts us over the top. I'm not saying they're even in the running for Kawhi. I'm not even saying Kawhi is leaving, but they may look into it and be like, hey, maybe Kawhi, you want to come here, pair with Trey. We just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. If they do that, right, you could be our piece that gets us over the top. And I think there's more team. It's going to be really interesting to see where everybody thinks they are. So that's really going to shake out a lot of this offseason. And what's interesting, too, is this conversation has come up, and I think you and I would absolutely give this a 0% chance of happening, and that is Spo to Portland. I straight up give it 0%. I do not doubt that the conversations are happening, and it makes a lot of sense why they would. The season didn't go great. You've got other coaches wanting more power. Brad Stevens got elevated in Boston, like Anthony said.
That was regardless
horrible.
What happens the rest of this offseason, there will not be a dumber move than that. I will die on this hill.
What if the Heat sign Andre Drummond and trade for Kristaps Porzingis?
Nope. You're taking a guy who literally complained about being burnt out from coaching during COVID in the bubble and saying, I think we're going to promote you. The Celtics are a disaster, and I'm biased. I hate them. Although I will say this year, I enjoyed watching them a little more than any other year or year in a very long time. But I don't understand how that happened. Like I literally thought that it was like a fake account spreading that rumor when Woj or whoever dropped that bomb, because that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I think it's super weird, but he stepped up where he was at. Rick Carlisle just quit with the Mavericks because of what we've heard is he probably wants more control. He wants more power, more decision making.
I mean, he's been there for 13.
I think he said 13 years.
Yeah.
Spo might want some of the same. So I understand why the conversations come up, especially within Portland. Right? It's the same way that Miami's talking about Kawhi. It's incredibly unlikely, but hey, if there's a chance. So they're thinking, man, what if there is a chance that Spo might want out? I just don't see it happening at all. I don't
either. And not only for the obvious reason of, Spo is kind of synonymous with the Miami Heat at this point, but listen, Pat Riley, although he's aging like a fine wine, he is aging. The organization has been kind of intact with more or less the same heavy hitters for a long time. There's no chance that Spo isn't next in line at some point to move up and keep going to whatever position he wants. It's not even a conversation. I think it's just a matter. It's not an if, it's a when. So I don't see why he would jump ship.
Yeah. I honestly don't even want to put that much time on it because I understand why the conversations are happening, especially within Portland. It's just not going to happen. It's not. Like I don't see Pat letting Spo walk at all because that's his boy, right? Like you're not going to let him walk. He's too good of a coach. And I want to call out Jeremy Taché on this one. He put out something really funny. Man, what was the song?
About not watching Fast and Furious, because that broke my heart.
I didn't see that.
Did you see? He said he had never watched any of the movies.
Any of them? But they're so good.
I know.
I mean, they're really not. It's fun, bad cinema.
Yeah, I mean, no one is saying that they're masterpieces, but like, how
he put out a tweet and said that there was, I think maybe it was a Lady Gaga song or something. The amount of coaches that are still in the NBA from before when that song came out, it's two. It was Popovich and Spoelstra.
Yeah.
And you don't give him up. Spoelstra's a great coach. He makes mistakes, as a lot of people do. But Spoelstra's a fantastic coach, and I wouldn't let him walk.
I do just want to address the comment because I think Anthony has asked us several times. Dallas seems to be struggling marketing players. Do you think Luka would want to be treated to a team that knows how to market players better?
I don't think they're that bad at it. I mean, somebody else said in the chat that they did fine with Dirk.
Yeah,
And again,
I mean,
it's just a smaller market.
and that's what I was gonna say. It's just not as flashy, I think, a market. And to be honest, like I think Luka gets a good amount of shine even being in Dallas. So I don't think that would be the problem.
Yeah, I don't blame the Mavericks not pushing him why he would want to leave. It's just the Mavericks aren't good enough, and it's hard for them to attract other talent. That would be the issues.
Mark Cuban has found himself in some hot water over the last few years that I would not be shocked if it's trickled down. So
Mark Cuban is the Jerry Jones of the NBA. And we all know what the Cowboys have done recently. Zilchos. All right, so we want to talk about our all-time Heat culture lineups. Okay, so this is not your like all-time Heat team because we all know most of the people that would be on there. This is like culture. So whoever you think embodies what we are the most, right? Like that defense, that grittiness, that like tough style of play, whatever that is. So
we have not seen each other's, and Michael is going to hate one of my picks.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'm going to. So we got a bunch of lineups from a bunch of people. We put it out there on Twitter. So here is one of the first ones. So Greg, we've called him the Dawn of Culture before. We know that about him.
For good reason.
Greg said Zoe, UD, Askins, Jimmy, and Wade with a bench rotation of Chris Bosh, Goran, Marley, and Bam. He says he thinks he's missing someone, but I wouldn't doubt it. Ricky put, and I'll just go over the starting five because this is plenty deep. Tim Hardaway, Dwayne Wade, Dan Marley.
You can always count on Ricky to go above and beyond. Can I just call him out?
I mean, he even put in Pimbo Coles. Twisted Tapioca put Glenn Rice, Wade, Timmy, UD, and Zoe with Mike Miller as the sixth man. Interesting choice with Mike Miller.
Yeah,
I think that was the only time I saw Mike Miller all day.
I love that, actually.
I really do think that was the only time I saw him all day. And then James Johnson, in case there's a dark alley. Absolutely. If I have to pick, if I have to get into a fight with any Miami Heat members, I take UD first because UD has like that 305 mentality. Now, from a pure fighting standpoint, you got to give
Black
James
belt
Johnson
JJ, for sure.
Yeah. There was another one we had. I'm looking for Royals. So we did like 5R people first, as we should. Royal had Rio, Wade, Askins, UD, and Zoe with Goran Rice, Jimmy, PJ Brown, and Bam as backups. And I have to ask you, Allana, are a lot of these names confusing you? Did you know all these names actually played for the Heat?
Yes. It's not that just
because did you become a Heat fan like 3 years ago?
Can people in the comments go after Michael super tough right now?
Oh, don't do it. They're all going to listen to you.
Yeah, because he bullies me. I've been very open about how I became a Heat fan, and it was not 3 years ago.
At Air Freeman 2 put Rio / Hardaway, which that was a debate for me. Wade, Jimmy, UD, and Zoe. Why you hate Billy? Why you hate Billy? Zoe, Anthony Carter, Goran, Lamar, and Karan. We also had, I got to shout out Philly Heat. Because Philly Heat with the pool party chat, we know what he does. He had Alonzo Mourning, Udonis Haslem, Keith Askins, Dwayne Wade, and Mario Chalmers. That is a tough squad. Like they will beat the snot out of you.
They'll murk you for sure.
We've also got, I mean, these are some of the earliest ones that came in. I'm seeing a lot of Zoe and UD. Like those feel very necessary. I think all of these except for the top one have Zoe and UD. And then a lot of Dwayne Wade. We've seen a lot of Dan Marley's. Jimmy's been in a few. One name that didn't pop up almost at all, except for this one. So this one was Tim Hardaway, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Shaq, with Zoe, UD, Ray Allen, and Mario Chalmers coming off the bench. And he said, yes, I am shameless.
I'm surprised that Shaq wasn't in more. I was debating, to be honest.
You think Shaq should have been in more?
As at least... not only if you did a straight starting five, but if you were giving a second lineup.
I don't even know if I'd have him in my second lineup.
Really? From
a culture perspective, the years that Shaq was here, and Shaq is a big part of why we won a championship. I'm not taking that away from him. It wasn't the same Shaq, and I wouldn't say it was so much he was so bought into the way the Heat were. It was just he's like, I'm going to keep playing my game. You guys do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And then we saw that when he left and got mad because they asked him to change and he didn't. So I kind of understand why Shaq hasn't been in too many. Those are a lot of the answers we got. We want to thank everybody that sent theirs in. But Allana, make me upset. What do you?
No, I now don't think I'll make you upset.
Actually, hold on. You want to do positions? Like you and I both do the positions at the same time? Okay, so point guard, who do you have?
Goran.
You put Goran.
I did. I was debating Rio and then I deleted it.
I was debating between Mario Chalmers and Tim Hardaway. And I went with Mario Chalmers just because that guy put up with so much crap from his own freaking teammates.
Yeah, that's why I was debating it. But then I'm just like, he did put up with crap. However, he was on very successful teams. And I feel like Goran has really like struggled through the ugly years with us, which is why I picked him. He also has lost like 7 teeth.
Yeah, but you've also got, what is it? I think it was game 4. Was it game 4 against the Thunder that Chalmers really stepped up because LeBron had a cramp and he was the one, like, he was clutch as hell.
I was teetering. It's not but, like it was. Not
but your teetering was Rio Goran. My teetering was Rio Tim Hardaway,
which I figured it.
And Tim Hardaway is fantastic. I'm not taking anything away from him. He deserves to be spoken about. I just have a preference for Rio. That's my jam. So shooting guard.
That's fair. Wade.
Oh, mine is Eddie Jones.
Oh, it's not.
No, it's not. It's absolutely good. I don't even think that really needs to be discussed. And I'll go to another one that should be easy for both of us. I'm going to center next.
I'm gonna put Zoe.
Yeah, it has to be Alonzo Mourning.
Yeah.
I don't think Shaq really deserves too much of that conversation. Bam in a few years.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that yet.
But he's not all-time culture for me just
yet.
And
it's really not even about Bam or his performance. It's just he hasn't been around long enough, I think, for me to give him that spot.
Small forward.
So here's my problem. I need to tell you both because technically I put UD and then I put James Johnson. Like I just had them both. Like I'm like.
Those are your 2 forwards?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I thought you were going to get mad over JJ, but then you started praising him and I was like, oh, maybe I'm okay.
No, I mean, I would take JJ in a fight. I just don't think JJ was super heat culture.
I just think like he was ride or die for his teammates. Like from like just wearing them on the shirts. Like for him, I feel like he had never felt like he was part of a team in the same way. I've loved him. He was at Wake Forest and the Bulls drafted him. Like I've been a fan for a long, long time, but I just feel like he was finally at home. So I had to put him in there.
So my small forward is Jimmy. Only because there has never been. It's early with Jimmy. I get that. First of all, okay. So it's not LeBron because LeBron was great, but LeBron was also really bad at times.
No, yeah.
That freaking finals
LeBron
against
is his
the Mavericks,
own culture. He can't.
He lost us that finals by himself. And I
agree.
Never forgive that. Ever.
Actually, Adam brings up a good point.
Birdman. No, Birdman's not up there for me in terms of culture. But
I'm surprised no one put that. Like no one that tweeted us, right?
Maybe someone did. Again, that wasn't all the tweets. We got a ton of them.
No, I don't know if I saw that. That's a decent point.
I can look through them in a second. To me, it's Jimmy just because, first of all, what Jimmy did in the finals, even though the Heat lost, I have never seen another Heat player put such a bad team.
No, and I'm not necessarily fighting you on it. I'm just surprised you put that because you're so like ingrained in like the old school Heat. Like I feel like, I don't know. To me, it was just, I was not expecting
old school Heat is fantastic, but I've known that Jimmy was a perfect fit with this team since Jimmy entered the league.
Oh, see, it's a good thing that we didn't know each other when the rumors first started.
Oh yeah. I mean, I already dislike you, so that's fine.
Yeah,
we all understand that's how it is.
We hate each other off air.
But you remember when him and LeBron got into a fight? It was a Bulls game, and they weren't in a fight, but like they were both on the ground in a skirmish, and the whole play was happening on the other end of the court. And LeBron,
it was that moment for you.
That moment, I was like, oh, this guy's pretty young, and he's stepping up to LeBron like that. I like this guy.
Yeah, Jimmy Virgo energy.
And when Justice Winslow was drafted, a lot of the comps and thoughts were, if he could become a Jimmy Butler. So it was just always there. So Jimmy Butler feels like he's been with this team a lot longer than he has. And I just think he embodies so much of what we want to do so perfectly. But power forward, I don't think there's anyone else we can go to. It's Udonis Haslem.
Him and Wade, there's no conversation needed to be
all-time leader in rebounds for the team. I think other players that deserve to be mentioned, though, is Chris Bosh. Because that dude sacrificed a lot.
But here's the problem, and that's the same thing with LeBron, but in a different way. Chris Bosh, to me, is like his own energy. Like, it's his own... Like, Chris Bosh is Chris Bosh. Do you know what I mean? Like, he never... I don't feel... To me, it's not like Heat culture. It's like his own culture.
to me with Chris Bosh, it wasn't so much that like I'm gonna box you out and I'm gonna throw an elbow and I'm gonna get all these like gritty plays inside kind of stuff, but he was the Heat culture, that like selfless Heat culture, that
100%.
like it's about team before myself from the moment he got here.
Yeah.
Right. And then they gave him that opportunity after LeBron left and things got, I would have given up a lot.
Don't talk about it. I'm literally gonna get emotional. I will never forget when that news came out. Like I can't even tell you. But
that's what I'm saying. To me, Bosh was so sacrificial with his stuff that I don't put him as high up as Dwayne, UD, or Zoe. But in terms of like that sacrificing yourself for the team, I don't think that's tough, man. Like Chris Bosh is really high.
Yeah.
Because he could have easily been the number one player somewhere else.
We didn't fight over this too much, Michael. I'm proud of us.
I don't think James Johnson should be on there.
Well, but you didn't get as mad as I thought you were going to get.
I expect worse from you. So I thought you were going to say LeBron.
Can the comments come after this boy for constantly bullying me?
Nope. We've got one section left. We're going to do style corner. I don't know which one you want me to bring up first, so I'll just bring them up in the way you sent them. Bam.
Okay, so the reason that I wanted to talk about Jordan Clarkson is I think he is one of, at least because, we're doing like playoff edition right now of who's remaining. Like he's just such a character. Like he's just such a unique guy, and I really appreciate that. How do you feel about this fit though?
I actually have
this
no
was
problem
making
with this.
its
I don't like the purse. I'm not a fan of the purse, I will say. That seems a little like strange. Because
it's a purse or because of the way
that it looks? Like I feel like I need a story behind it. Right. Okay. Like maybe like he has like a daughter or something, or like a son that was like, it was like a gift or something like that. And it was like cool, I'll be fine with it. Cause I also see he has a bunch of like bracelets on his wrist. So I feel like with the colors of that kind of stuff, like there might be a story behind it. So I won't give him too hard a time, but I think this is fine. Okay. The sunglasses indoors. Well, don't be that guy.
You don't have a problem with the suit sneaker combo?
No, it matches perfectly. It's all black and white. So yeah, this one's fine. Yeah, did you think I was not going to like that one?
I thought that you were going to have a problem with, first of all, the shirt, because it's like, there's no tie, but it's not necessary. It's not an open shirt.
No, you don't need a tie.
Okay. I knew you were going to have a problem with the purse, but
I'll leave the most controversial one for the end. Okay. So now we got CP.
Okay. I love this. Like I knew I was going to put him on here. I will say,
this is the second time he's been on here, by the way.
Out of everyone remaining, that's the point that I was going to make. I think Chris Paul is severely underrated with his style. Like, you don't really hear that many people talking about him, and it might just be like the age thing. But I don't know. I think that he kills it every time. Do you not?
But again, this doesn't feel too wild for me at all. Like the only thing that's strange about this is the shorts, right? With what he's wearing up top, but I'm fine with it, right? Like this to me doesn't feel wild at all. Like this feels very normal. Like
no, and it wasn't. I didn't necessarily do this for shock value. I picked Clarkson because I think like he's kind of known as like this unique guy, and I think that translates into style. But I again think just Chris Paul like doesn't get talked about enough with his style. I love it.
I don't like the buttons because I know they're useless. Like you don't need all those
everything
buttons.
to have purpose in your style.
I just like what he's gonna come out with like little frills on his shoulders next. Like what are we?
No, but it's like a detail to the jacket.
It's fine. This is fine. This is something I could not pull off, but I wouldn't like fight wearing it. Right? Like that's fine.
You hate the next one. Oh, okay. So I need these shoes. As soon as they hit the market, I'm gonna get them. I literally I hope they come in my size because
you'll probably get these shoes pretty soon.
I don't know what that means.
Like maybe like the shoot will send them to you or something. I know he's there in the comments, so we'll see.
Shoot, if you wanna. My birthday is in August. I'm just saying I need these shoes. These are the Trae Young ones. I think these are the ice colorway with 2 E's. I don't know how you feel about these, but I need these.
You mean icy?
Like
icy. The drink?
Sure, yeah.
Have you never had an icy?
No, of course I have. At the booth for the movies.
You mean the one movie you go to every 3 years, which is Fast and Furious?
I used to go to the movies more. Do you not like those shoes though?
No.
Those with white shorts in the summer, like I'm done. Like I will be everywhere and I will just go places I don't need to be just to show those off.
They look fine.
I hope they come in my size.
I don't have an issue with them. Like
Okay.
this isn't too crazy. Like the colors aren't necessarily my favorite, but it
No,
kind of
but
has
I
like
was just doing like a playoff edition of like
a
things that
Vice
I
feel
love.
to it too.
It
Like
does a
the
little bit,
latest
yeah.
Vice jerseys.
Yeah.
This is one that I need to hear you defend it because I don't see it. I don't see it.
I will also, but here's the thing: PJ Tucker, I feel like is very hyped up on his style, so I don't think he's underrated, but I think for like good reason. Like this is
also
great.
the second time he's been on here.
It's a mesh 2-piece matching set. The shoes he's holding, fire. This is this is a win.
I like those green shoes.
I could do without the hat, I will admit. You don't like the mesh. This reminds you of Tyler's shirt.
This is terrible. Like for what? Just why? That's not even a shirt. That's like somebody tried quilting a blanket and they sewed it shut and like.
Why don't you like it?
I just don't think this looks good at all.
Really?
Like, what do you? I'm not with it. I don't see this.
I think it's breezy. I think it's good for the summer, but it's still black, so it's chic. I love this.
So this is chic.
Like to go to a game in like pregame, yeah.
No, this looks terrible to me. Obviously, this is the worst of all the ones we've seen today. I would put this way lower than Tyler's shirt, even.
Really?
This is worse to me than the white like sheer shirt. Yeah, for sure. I just can't get with this. Also, it's on PJ Tucker, which doesn't help. You know, but this just looks weird to me. I don't know. I'm not with it. Again, I don't claim to know anything about style, but if that's style, I'm good. I'll stay out of it. I've got nothing to do with that. I would still
love to know what you would wear to a game.
I'd probably be closer to what Jordan Clarkson wore. Like something like that. Like maybe like sunglasses, a suit jacket kind of thing. Yes, but only because I have so much money that I can wear sunglasses indoors. Like I feel like the only people that can wear sunglasses indoors are the wealthy because they're wealthy, right? Like the rest of us, we gotta like be reasonable.
So I couldn't pull that off.
Sunglasses indoors? Are you wealthy?
Don't worry about that, Michael.
Okay, well, that's what it depends on. That is it for the show. We did a full hour. Anything you got to say before we go?
Can you update me on the Nets Bucks score?
The Milwaukee Bucks are beating the Brooklyn Nets 53-46 with 2:08 left in the second quarter.
It seems like we will A, catch the second half, and B, my Bucks in 7 prediction is not dead after all.
So you're saying the Bucks will win this game?
Yes.
Well, we'll see if the Bucks win this game. We will be back Tuesday with a new episode. Good night to shoot. Appreciate that. I mean, I'm sure you want to say there it is.
Oh, thank you.
It was like only me. Interesting. Anything else you want to add, Allana?
No, thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate the support. Like Michael said, we will be back next week with another episode. If y'all ever have any things you want us to talk about on the pod, just tweet one of us, both of us.
Tweet or DM us. I'm not too worried about the DM side of things. So
you can DM me. That is also fine. But enjoy the rest of the playoffs.
Peace out, guys.
There is no need for full screen, Michael.